Hello. I hope that hello. I hope that the class is going well for you so far. I wanted to touch base again with some housekeeping material and then some advice and some comments about your work. I'll need you to watch the videos that I have up concerning student work, and I want you to remember a couple things. That at one point in these classes I used a GPA scale to mark my work, or to mark student scores, and that's a scale from 0 to 4, 4 being an A, 3 being a B, 2 being a C, and 1 being a D, 0 being an F. B plus would be a 3.3, a B minus would be a 2.7, a 3.5 is a B would be a 3, a 3.5 is an A/B. So let's see, a 3.7 or 3.8 is an A. I tell you that just because I know that in the videos I may have referred to work as, say, a 3.5 piece, or a 2.5 piece, or a 3 piece. I hope I've used the letter grades A, B, C, because that would allow you to think more in range of your own score. But on a 9-point scale, an A on a GPA scale is going to be an A, and a 9-point scale. It's all great work. So what I need you to remember, though, is that the value of looking at those videos is to actually listen to what I'm saying, and if you can, view them on a larger screen, or pause the video and try to read a bit of what the author has written, so that you can see how I'm looking for weaknesses or strengths, and then apply that to your work. So obviously, if I'm asking for a title to an essay and a student doesn't provide a title, that's going to be something that will lower the score a bit, and I'll mention that in the video. I'll say, look, this essay has some strong points, but one of the big problems is it's just not aligning itself to the basic requirements of the assignment. I need a title, I need some quotations, and MLA formatting to show that you're anchoring your insights to a text for this sort of review work. I'll need a word count at the end, and that sort of thing, and then I'll say, can you see how the student is sort of jumping right into the work, but forgetting some of the superficial requirements. Now, I want you to consider something with me, all right? And this model has been affirmed in the consumer side of things. And many of you are in college. The mindset of today's society is that the college degree will help you find a job, or better your job, will open the door toward advancements. So there is a push, and I'm not necessarily ascribing to this, but I recognize its presence. There's a push to consider a college degree, or the whole act of trying to earn a college degree, worthy and necessary in order to better one's financial future, right? And there seems to be a much greater overlap between among how a company does something and how a college does something, and how we assess and evaluate and that sort of thing. Okay, so I am going to use the corporate model here. Think of a resume. All right, think of the resume method of assessment. So you're an employer and you have a job opening, and you've advertised well, and you have 200 resumes. All right, now that's not far-fetched. All right, those sort of numbers, and the stack is on your desk. It's a nice big stack. You have 30 minutes, at most an hour, to go through that list and to come up with the short list. Okay, so what might you do? You might automatically weed out the wrinkled ones, the ones that have typos in them, the ones that have some sort of stain or something like that, or just the weird looking ones. Those might automatically go off to the side as sort of a second list, but the short list is going to be quickly weeded out from the others based on some surface level material that will allow us to assume something else. Okay, so when I see that a student is actually citing, using MLA parenthetical citation, is actually following all the alignments of the assignment on the surface level, I start making the assumption, and I'm not saying it's a foolproof assumption, but it is the assumption I start making, that this student is careful, is conscientious, and is probably going to produce better work than the others. So there are ways that paying attention to that will help you, all right, and how your work might be evaluated on the collegiate level for its actual overall holistic effect upon an audience, all right? Because, you know, I don't want to say, oh, it's all content, format doesn't matter, because that a skewed format, or a paper full of punctuation errors or spelling errors is going to have an effect on your audience, and it's going to take quite a set of startling and sterling insights on your part to get me to overlook all the guffawing and hiccuping that takes place on the surface level of your writing. So sorry about that, I just kicked the stand holding my computer. You need to keep that in mind when you look at how I score your work. Now, what I'm not going to do is circle everything or somehow point it out in Blackboard and some of the tools I have, every instance where you need to fix a comma, or you need to capitalize, or you need to fix a spelling. No, I'm not going to do that, because that will be holding your hand too much. What I will do is I'll say, hey, this essay was between 0 and 9 points. To get a 0 is very easy and also very, well, just don't do it, all right? 1s, you radically misunderstood the assignment. 9s are almost perfect, all right? Semi-professional level or professional level. So you got that range, all right? Well, let's split it into 3 sets of 3, okay? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So I got 3 basic categories. Where would I place your work? Right away, maybe in the middle, because it's pretty good, but it's not as good as it could be. Now that it's in the middle, I have 3 other categories. Smack dab in the middle, a little bit on the plus side, or a little bit on the minus side. Which one? So, you know, I'm going to put your work into those sort of shells very quickly. And if you want to know what I'm thinking, all right, you need to look at the rubric that's in the back of my syllabus. And I am using a nationwide accepted rubric for assessing essays, developed by the College Board. The ETS, College Board, Advanced Placement, all of that, the people that write the SAT and the ACT, or the SAT, and the MCAT and the LSAT and all these other nationwide accepted tests, I'm using their rubric, all right? So what I'm trying to say is that the way you get feedback on actually your writing is to look at the videos and to look at my rubric. Now, if you want me to write comments, I'll probably use the language of the rubric, okay? So you may as well say, well, I got a 7 on this 9-point paper. Let me see what the 7 says. Oh, it says that I have a basic mastery and that my work is adequate, but that I don't have sophisticated control of syntax or something like that. Okay. Now, the next step would be to go into your Tri-C Center and talk to the writing commons, or the writing tutorials, the writing labs. That meeting is going to be free for you. They get paid for it. They want your business in the sense that they need population and traffic to go through there to get their funding. They are very well trained. I know the directors of some of these, and these people have a heart to help you get better on a nuts and bolts, let's both look at this right now in this room manner, all right? So I need you to use these resources that are at your beck and call, all right? Now, if there's still at that point something you don't understand, like why is this not an 8 or something, well, certainly send me an email. Now, on this note, always use my Tri-C email, matthew.horn with no E at the end, just H-O-R-N, matthew.horn@tric.edu. Check my syllabus. The email is there. I say that because I know I will check that email every day. So, you know, your chances of being somehow forgotten about because I have plenty of email stuff I'm looking through at different accounts, and sometimes I admit It's my problem, but I forget to check the message box of the Blackboard. And if you've been one of them that have waited for a response, I apologize for that. I should also be checking that message box, and I'm trying to do better. But I know that I will check my Tri-C email every day. So you're always welcome to send it there. You're welcome to use my other emails. Here's another one for you. MHORN3, the number 3, at kent.edu. Send it there. I look at that email every day too. Please, the way, again, you get feedback here is at this initial, okay, here's the score, now you try to make sense of it, point in your writing is to check the rubric and then check the videos I place up about work. Now, let me go ahead and just use this as an example. I don't have actual models of this right now, any new ones. Now I have some older ones, and it's the same assignment, the same level of student, the same general mistakes. So those older videos will do fine to illuminate you as to where or why your score may be what it is. But you know, I was looking at the essay that asked you to find a similarity between the mailbox disappearing, right, for Roll My Mailbox, and this company that tried to take advantage in a very politically correct way. They were trying to really spin it to you, weren't they, of the homeless and the Wi-Fi gadgetry, using the homeless as hotspots. And I asked you to try to find a similarity. Now, you know, this is how these essays go wrong. Oh, by the way, another thing was it needed to be at least 300 words, right? Now, when I tell you that, I'm saying if it's not 300 words, I reserve the right to send it right back to you and say, I'm not going to grade this, you know, make it a bit bigger. Or I may just give it a C right off the bat, which would be like a 6 or a 5, probably a 6. So out of 9. That's if it's like 250. Now I'm getting sidetracked here, right? But what I'm saying is, here's one point. Okay, when I give you a minimum number, it needs to be at least 300 words. If you give me 310 words, now think as a teacher. Think with me as a teacher. What are you thinking when you see 310 words? Or let's go 301. All right. You may be tempted to think this student ran out of gas at 250 words and just stretched and just padded or did something to get 301. Okay, so don't allow me to think that way. Of course, I may look at, you know, that may not be the case, and your actual work might be right on the money, you know, content-wise analysis and perfect 301. But don't allow me to think that way. Why don't you give me 400 words? 400 words tells me you know basically when to stop. You're not going to go on too long, but you're comfortable with expansion and copiousness. All right, so there's a trick to you. What does 900 words tell me? When it's a 300-word assignment, that tells me you don't know how to stop. So let me share an anecdote with you. There was a storied and well-versed, a true professional of the trade. Let's say his trade was topic X. Okay, it just doesn't matter. But this was a top thinker, a top writer, just a pro's pro in topic X, and an established speaker. All right, so someone contracted him to talk about topic X at a convention, and this fellow said, well, look, you know, that's fine, I need to know the timeline, okay, because if you want me to speak for 5 hours, I'm ready to go tomorrow. If you want me to speak for 30 minutes, I need 3 weeks to prepare. Okay, because this fellow understood that knowing what to cut and what not to say, or what not to write, or when to stay aligned with your true purpose of the writing, that's really hard to do. All right, that's a discipline of thought. Okay, as opposed to, hey, just keep on talking or writing until it all comes out. And you know, plenty of us can just sit down at a keyboard and write for an hour. But if we're not careful about how we're organizing, what we're not putting in, that sort of thing, well, it comes out a jumbled mess. So what I'm trying to say is, if I have a 300-word limit and you give me 1,000 words, I might be beginning to thinking this person has a bad case of logorrhea, you know, doesn't know when to stop with the words, or doesn't know how to control the words, design it right. So now I did ask you to find a similarity, you know, and I don't want you to substitute a similar task for the harder one. Now a simpler task for the harder one. I needed you to find a similarity. So this is really analysis, right? The simpler essays, the 6s, the 5s, would be ones that just gave me summary. And then like 3 lines of an attempt to find a similarity between the two. I didn't ask for a summary, I asked for that connection. Okay. Now, what if you forgot to mention the articles at all? That was a lower score. I need you to directly connect to a text, to something that you're responding to or analyzing or writing about or researching or whatnot. So I need those articles identified right away. What if your essay was a lot of personal response? In other words, I really enjoyed, I really liked, this made me think, I completely understand because in my experience, and then you go on for 4 or 5 lines telling me how you couldn't find, a blue mailbox somewhere. Wait a minute, you're giving me like just personal response. You're not giving me analysis that aligns with the assignment. So you may have written 300, 400 words, but you really substituted a simpler task for the real one. All right, so please don't do that. You have to find a point of connection quickly. You have to expand upon it to prove to me it is a real point of connection. All right, so cut out that personal response stuff. That's not the assignment. So that would have been the reason for a 6 or maybe even a 7. I mean, it should have been a 6. Or, if I were actually sitting and doing the AP grading, that would actually be a 2. We're instructed to give an off-topic response, a 2. So maybe I should have given out some 2s, but I just don't want to deal with all the hassle of explaining the 2s. So, what about the response that says, hey, the connection is technology, or the connection is communication? Well, obviously that's the connection. That's one connection. So there are a lot of connections on the surface, right? But think about it. Think deeply about it. Is there any connection way at the bottom? A deeper connection, one that's not so obvious. Now let's do some extreme thing here. What if can you see, think as a teacher, okay? What would you do with a student that said, well, the connection is they're both written in English? You're like, that's obvious. Don't tell me that. That's a no-brainer. Well, it's not to that extent, but if you just tell me, hey, the connection is communication. Well, yeah, that's a very broad surface connection. Can you go deeper? Let me just throw something out. Now, this is not the only one. There are other things connecting here. But, think about the guy writing about the mailbox. One thing he wants you to do is to be grateful for what you had and to salute the system that provided that everyday convenience for free. He's not trying to say the mailbox is going to stay around. It's not going to say, let's bring it back. He's not trying to stop technology for this, but he wants us to be thankful for a government that at least gave us that. At least show gratitude, respect it, show a moment. And I think there's a paragraph toward the end that says, can you just stop for a minute, and be grateful for this? Now, what was missing on the other one? This article that was convincing us it would be okay to treat a person, a down and out person, as a machine, as machinery, as a wire to communicate through, not with, right? So there was an extended lack of gratitude there. So there might have been, now if you read that and were repulsed by it or shocked by it, you were innately recognizing the lack of the I-thou relationship as opposed to the I-it relationship, okay? And with the blue mailbox, it's just I-it because it's obviously a machine. But the guy was trying to get you to see that there was a thou behind it. The people of the actual mail people that brought you this and helped you, and the government people that put this into place. He's trying to take away the itness and put a thou there, all right? Saying, don't just look at it as a metal box, look at it as the people behind it. Can you be grateful for that? And in the article that you read about the homeless, they were trying to tell you it was helping the people, but you got the sense that they were really all about the machinery and the money they could get off this, right? So there might have been a connection that goes a lot deeper than, hey, it's just all about technology. So if you just wrote about, hey, this thing is all about technology, you probably got a 7 or a 6, because frankly, I'm an easy grader, okay? But, that really wasn't all that hot. So you got to, that would never be a 9 in my book, or an 8, because those 8s or 9s are showing some penetrating analysis, not just common surface level analysis, but penetrating analysis. So I want to, in closing, okay, so there was some feedback on this similarity between the mailbox and the homeless. All right, let's move on to one more thing, and then I'll shut down the video because it's already 20 minutes. Thanks for your attention if you got this far. I do expect you to see the videos all the way through. I know it's time, but it's a 3-credit class, and you got to put the time in. So thank you. All right, appreciate it. Here's the deal. Because I like to stick to the 9% scale, and because I have a lot of, you know, basic grunt, or that's not the right, gear nuts and bolt work that prepares you to write well. I'll have a lot of those type of assignments, and then I have those portfolio essays, right? And I have to, it's not necessarily my choice, but I do have to set up the portfolio so that 70% is coming from the writing. But I have all these other miscellaneous assignments that are to get you on the right track. All right, they're just 0.9 of points. So, you know, if ever you feel you need to skip a couple of those, it's not going to really blow your grade. I'm not advocating that, but it's just not going to do much, you know, in the long run, unless you make a habit out of it. Don't ever skip the writing, all right, the actual essays. But for those, you know, miscellaneous smaller assignments that are the nuts and bolts and gears to get you to write well, you know, like find 5 journal articles or you know, that sort of thing. Most of them are going to be 0.9 points, right? Now, obviously, the tests are 4 points, but a lot of these other ones are 0.9. Now, for the 0.9 points, I'll never give you an 8 or a 7. It should have been a 0.7, okay? So if it's a 7 and you know the highest was a 0.9 of a point that you could get, please let me know. I forgot to put the decimal, okay? Now on the flip side, if you're writing an essay and it's a 9-point essay or an 18-point, but let's say a 9-point essay, and I give you a 0.7, I'll never do that. I'll never do it. So I made a mistake. Your score is a 7 out of 9, not a 0.7. Don't hesitate to email me. I want to fix those. Obviously, that's a mistake. And I'll never give negative scores. So when I go into enter scores in Blackboard, there's always a little hyphen there by default. I wish I could remove it, but I can't. I don't know how. And sometimes I'm just going and I forget to erase the hyphen or so it comes out as a negative sign. I'll never give a negative sign. If you have a negative score, let me know. I need to change that, okay? Listen, keep up the good work in the class. I really appreciate the many of you that are putting in work, sending it in, doing your job. All right, that's great. That's great, and I want to reward you for that. And please, let me know as soon as possible when an emergency happens, a bona fide emergency where you think it might force you to take an incomplete or you need some extra time. But, you know, do your best to get this class over by August, or you don't want it hanging on your back as you move on to your other goals to achieve the degree. So please, again, let me encourage you to stay disciplined, stay self-motivating and on top of it so that you are you know, you are done with the class when you should be, all right, and with the grade that you've earned and maybe a little extra on top of that. So, all right, have a good night.